Hi there, Serial Trader here. Let's have a look at weed, CGC, and ACB. So interesting price action here as of the end of the week. Um, weed made that marginal new high above the previous wave three, and then strongly rejected those higher prices. And then we've actually gotten below the daily T line, and now the daily T line appears to be acting as resistance. So we could very well start a new downtrend. And we also took out this previous support area here, the wave E low, okay, and that came in at 60.55. So we got as low as 59.61. So it looks like we're breaking the support zone where our triangle apex, ended here, and we could be coming down in a much deeper decline. And if the past is any indicator, which I think it is, after these marijuana names have a good run up, which they certainly have had, they tend to sell off 30, 50, or even a higher percentage depending on the name. So pretty good chance we're in the midst of a very deep pullback here. It could be time consuming as well, because when we correct, we have to correct price and time, and there's been a lot of both to the upside here. So looking at the daily candlestick chart, not a technical sell signal, but there is on the weekly. So on the weekly candlestick chart, look at this on weed. So massive upper shadow rejecting those higher prices on a weekly basis. And we did a weekly bearish engulfing 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 prior weeks real bodies engulfed by this bearish engulfing candlestick. Very large upper shadow. So that's quite menacing looking. And also, if you look at this, we have bearish divergence on the weekly RSI. So if I highlight that here with a little trend line, so RSI made a weekly peak here and made a lower high here. So RSI peaked on our wave 3. RSI hit 79.29 here on the wave 3 peak. On the wave 5 peak, RSI only got as high as 64 on this week here. So clear divergence on weekly RSI. Price made a slightly higher high. RSI made a lower high. And then combine that with the powerful weekly bearish engulfing candlestick sell signal, I'd say weed is in for some serious pain in pretty soon here. Might have a little corrective action going into this coming week. Not even a guarantee though. We might just start tanking, but we'll have to see. But this is actually a potential shorting candidate now. I haven't entered any positions yet, but I'll be looking at it. If I can find a shorter term corrective pattern that I like, I'll use that potentially as an entry to make a bearish play on this. Okay, so that being said, we went over weeds charts here. And CGC, I'll just run through that quickly. It's exactly the same. And I'll just go to the weekly CGC chart. So same idea, weekly bearish engulfing candlestick, engulfing 4 prior weeks. Same bearish divergence on weekly RSI, and just exactly the same message. Oh, look at this weekly volume, the highest ever on CGC. So having a huge reversal pattern like this with the highest volume ever, that's not good for having a bullish outlook on this stock. This thing is likely gonna come down hard. Okay, probably harder than most people think is even possible, but we'll see. Early yet, but certainly a strong signal to sell. And maybe you don't have to short this. Maybe you're not comfortable with that. It's not for everyone trying to play the downside. Although I think you're missing out if you don't attempt to play certain downside setups that are clear. But definitely don't be trying to catch the falling knife here if you're trying to go long, because it looks like we could come down a lot before it's attractive. Now, this has nothing to do with my opinion as to whether the marijuana industry will thrive or not in Canada. It could very well, be incredible, but I'm just going with the charts here, and they serve me well, so keep that in mind. Is there a scenario where these companies are extremely successful and their stock prices go down during that? Absolutely. Just because the business is going well doesn't mean the stock goes up, and vice versa. Just keep that in mind. Don't let your fundamental views distract you from what's actually happening as far as price action. Very important. So going back to the daily chart of CGC, What was I going to mention here? Oh yeah, so I showed the weekly bearish divergence on RSI. Well, clearly a daily one as well, and also on the MACD. So let me get the trend line out. So on MACD, we made our high, let's say around here. Sorry, get down to the MACD graph here. Made our high here. Clearly made a lower high on the MACD moving averages, even though price made a higher high. So that's a pretty clear, strong bearish divergence. And also on RSI, RSI peaked over here on the daily and made a significantly lower high, even though price made a higher high. So we got divergences, bearish divergences on the daily and weekly chart. We have strong sell signal on the weekly chart. We're below the T line on the daily. We've broken significant support levels here. So yeah, same goes for weed, by the way. I just didn't show the divergences for the daily on weed, but it's identical. So keep this in mind. This is looking like a very, very compelling short play. Not necessarily a perfect entry for it, but definitely a compelling, directional move for sure. Now let's go to ACB. So ACB met all the targets I'd laid out for it. We have a nice mature looking 5-wave advance. We've clearly rejected strongly after making the high. So we did a bearish engulfing candlestick. We gapped down here, had a bounce up, only a partial recovery. And now, as of Friday, we've done another bearish engulfing daily candlestick, a close below the T line. We also have a little, not as obvious as on CGC, but nonetheless, we do have a little bearish divergence, so a lower high in RSI despite a higher high in price. MACD is basically the same, so not much there as far as divergence on the daily. So to reiterate, candlestick, bearish engulfing daily candle, close below the T line, strong sell signal. Now weekly for ACB, look at this weekly. Again, bearish engulfing candlestick on the weekly, engulfing the previous week's real body. Very long upper shadow, rejecting those higher prices. And also, so the weekly bearish divergence is very much alive and well. So ACB, its previous all-time high was over here, which was actually wave 3, even though I haven't illustrated on this chart. That was the MACD moving averages peak there. It made a significantly lower high on the MACD moving averages on this most recent higher high in price on wave 5. And same with RSI. We peaked in RSI on that last significant top in ACB, and now made a clearly lower high in RSI despite a higher high in price. So good bearish divergences there. Weekly bearish engulfing, daily bearish engulfing. So the bottom line here is these stocks are likely going to tank here and surprise a lot of people. So I'll just leave that there for now. Hopefully you can do something with that, or at least if you are in a long position, really reconsider trying to hold that down, because this is likely going to pull back way more than, again, most people think is possible. All right. Maybe we'll check in on these sometime this week if there's something compelling on them. All right, Serial Trader signing off.